First of all, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Hope everyone has a fantastic week. I know we as a program have a lot to be thankful for, and myself personally as well. So fantastic week, fantastic day, and hope everyone takes time to think about all the great things we have in our lives and to be thankful for. For me, that's the opportunity to coach in this game. I said it last week. I've been a part of a lot of great rivalries in my time of the places that I've coached, and this one's right there at the top as well. Just feel so fortunate to be a part of this rivalry. So much history, tradition, great players, great coaches that have been a part of it as well, and I know how much it means to this state. Got a big challenge on our hands. Dabo's done an awesome job with his team this year. Disappointing game one against Georgia, but got a lot of respect for the way they didn't listen to all the noise about him and their program and their team after that game, and just stayed focused on getting better and winning the next one, and they absolutely have. They've been on a roll since that game as well, certainly playing their best football right now. For him personally, a ton of respect for him as a person, human being, coach. The consistency that he's had year in, year out at his place is remarkable and really hard to do. I saw my dad do it at Virginia Tech with the consecutive 10-win seasons that he had, and you see Dabo doing the same thing, which I've got, it's a huge testament to their program when every single week in that conference, they're basically getting the opposing team's best shot because they're all trying to knock off Clemson because of the run they've had in the ACC. So a lot of respect for him, and he's got a great football team, like always. Quarterback Cade Klubnik is playing great right now, the best ball of his career. Shows his athleticism, ability to make all the throws, run. Veteran offensive line. I know they've had some injuries there, but even the guys that have come in to replace some of those injured guys have done a really good job. Maffa, the running back, is a load. Can hurt you inside, can hurt you outside, and they ride him, and rightfully so. Receiving core, a lot of the guys that we played last year, but then obviously it's the two freshmen that have come in and made a difference with their team this year. They're fantastic players, and Antonio Williams in the slot's a really good player, obviously. We know all about him and his talent level for sure. Defensively, every year they've got an amazing defense, and this year's no different. They're big and physical, strong on the line of scrimmage. They've got guys that they have depth there, tackles that can play ends that can play tackles. The linebackers are really, really good. Carter, I'll be glad when he's out of there. We got Trotter out of there last year, but Carter's still around, and he is a fantastic player. A ton of respect for him. Love watching him. 17 Woodaz is a great player. We recruited the heck out of Sammy Brown and know what kind of player he is. So they're really good with the way they're able to move those guys around, whether it be Woodaz playing out in space as the Sam linebacker nickel or playing in the box as a Mike linebacker with Brown in there as well. So I know he's been banged up, but they've been able to develop depth behind him, and then really good in the secondary also. And then they present problems on special teams. Maffa has been involved in the return game. Antonio's back there returning punts, and he's hard to bring down. And they do a good job. They know what they're doing. So big challenge, big opportunity. Our guys are excited to go up there and be a part of this game, and need to have a great week of practice and give ourselves a chance to try and go 1-0 again, which has been our mentality all year, and this week is no different.
You mentioned Sunday about wanting to control the message with your team before you cut them loose for a day or so. So now that they're back from the wild and with you guys, how have things been? How did they respond to this first day in practice?
Yeah, were you not impressed with Allen's question the other night that he doesn't get the first question today? You give it to Hale, or you're just trying to move it around and equal opportunity? I thought it was great the other night, Allen, when you got the first question. You answered the call. I think they've been good. We talked about it a little bit on Sunday, Hale, what I said on Saturday night. We play Saturday. We bring them in on Sunday afternoon. We have a 1:45 team meeting on Sundays, and then we don't see them again as far as a full team until Tuesday morning. So I addressed it a little bit on Sunday, just in regards to you're going to be out in the wild, as you say, for the next 2 days before we see you again. Let's make sure we have an understanding of this opponent, this game, our mindset, especially this week because we don't have class, so you've got no all day Monday with no classes. So they got a lot of time on their hands. And then, this morning was like any other team meeting that we normally have to start the week, in that we introduced the opponent just like we've done and talked about their offense, defense, special teams, coaching, and what we need to do to win the football game. And I'm not dumb. I know it's magnified, and it's magnified this year because of what we've done. It's magnified because we're a ranked team. Clemson's been a ranked team all these years. Finally, South Carolina comes in here as a ranked team. So it's magnified and big and has implications because of what we've done, along with Clemson, which they've done each year. So, for us, it's the team that prepares the best and coaches the best and plays the best is going to be the one that wins on Saturday, not the one that gets caught up in whatever on social media or talking in press conferences and things like that. So we just need to focus on going 1-0, and that's been our message all year, and this week's no different.
Yeah, going off of that, emotions are always so heightened this week, specifically with that side of it, the intensity of this rivalry and everything on the line. How do you get them to channel those emotions to where it's beneficial to the play on Saturday and not detrimental to it?
Yeah, this is a game where Dabo's not going to have to go in the meetings throughout the week and in the locker room on Saturday and motivate his guys to play hard, and neither am I. I mean, I'm sure both teams are ready emotionally to play today. If they said, you got to be up there, we'd hop on the bus and head up today and go play. So it's one, making sure you keep what I've talked to our guys about, just, keep your routine throughout the week as well, which is a little bit different this week because of the class situation. But keep your routine and just do what you have to do to prepare to go play your very best on Saturday. And the emotions are, part of it. And it'll be an emotional game throughout, and there'll be electricity in the air, and it's awesome to be a part of. I mean, this is fun and exciting. Last year at this time, we were 5-6. Like, that was, I don't want to say pressure, but that wasn't fun. 5-6, and if you don't win, the season's over. That's a different level of mindset than what we have this week, where this is fun and exciting to be a part of. And to me, this is going to be a yearly occurrence. Like, we're not going anywhere. Our program, we're only continuing to ascend. And Dabo and Clemson have shown they're not going anywhere. And I think a battle of ranked Carolina versus ranked Clemson, that's going to, with playoff implications in my mind, is going to be a yearly occurrence around here. So everybody better get used to it. And that's what I've told our guys, is this is fun and this is exciting. But at the same time, once the game starts, it gets down to blocking and tackling and playing with great fundamentals. And that's what's going to win this game.
Lenoris has already played at Alabama. He's played on some big stages already. How do you think he's going to handle Clemson? And then he seems to be so calm out there. Where does that kind of calmness come from a guy who's just a freshman?
Yeah, I think the calmness, thank the good Lord above, God made a special human being in Lenoris Sellers, and he comes from a very grounded and awesome family as well. So I'd say he gets it from him, and that's a great quality to have. And not much, I love saying nothing much rattles him, because I always think back to Spencer last year. So nothing really rattles him. And it's true, though, as well. This will be different. And we talked about it. I mean, crowd noise will be an issue. We went to Kentucky. That was a 3:30 game. And not that the crowd wasn't into it, because they were, but we played well and in a lot of ways took the crowd out of it. We went to Alabama. We were a 23-point underdog, so I don't think the Crimson Tide were like ripping and roaring as a fan base waiting on the Gamecocks to roll in there. And that was an 11 a.m. kick. And it was loud, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't to the point where, oh, my God, we can't hear. And then we went to Oklahoma, and we were up 21-0 5 minutes into the game, and we took the crowd out of it. Then we went to Vanderbilt, and it was like a home game for us in a lot of ways, and there was no crowd noise. So this will be different. It's crazy that in Game 12, you're talking about it, but it'll be the loudest crowd we've played in, and that's awesome and exciting. And again, it goes back a minute to what I just said a minute ago. All of us as an offense, defense, special teams, coaching staff, just executing and playing well, where you can not let the crowd become a factor. But he's excited. He's a gamer. He's a competitor, and I know he'll be excited to be a part of this game. And it disappoints me. I saw that he just told you guys that he really didn't watch this game growing up, which I don't know how he didn't watch this game growing up in South Carolina. But I know he's excited to be a part of it.
So this rivalry has obviously been going on for a long time, but this is technically the 10th official year of it being the Palmetto Bowl. Do you call it that in the locker room? And what's your opinions on the name overall?
I think it makes sense, being the Palmetto State, that it's the Palmetto Bowl. No, I don't say that we're playing in the Palmetto Bowl this week, but we're playing Clemson, and we talk about this. This is another trophy game. And we got the Mayor's Cup back here in Columbia, and here's an opportunity to, the winner's going to get that trophy, back in their town as well. So we talk about that. But as far as the name, not that I don't like the name, I like the name. It makes sense, but to me, it's just Carolina Clemson.
Shane, do you allow yourself or these guys to talk about the opportunity that you have should you be successful on Saturday? I mean, does college football playoff come up a bunch when you guys are preparing?
No. Not that our players aren't talking about it. I don't think I need to say anything. They know. Yeah. I mean, they're not going to be in study hall tonight, Pete. They're going to be sitting around on their phones, and I'm sure they'll see the rankings come out, whatever it is, and people will be talking about it and things like that as well. So we addressed it maybe a few weeks ago. Just the thing that we needed to do is worry about what we can control, and that's winning football games. And this is no different. We don't talk about it. Not that that's the right thing. We talk about, again, none of it matters if you don't go out there and play well on Saturday. So we need to focus on playing well Saturday, and everything else takes care of itself.
I have one more question about the college football playoff. The new format this year, you've been part of it in the past as an assistant in things. What do you think about the idea between, the FCS deals with this all the time, teams that come in having played a game against teams that have an extra week off or something like that? Which do you think is preferable?
It's hard to say. I think it kind of goes back to when you're talking about an off week or open week during the season. If you just won the game the week before, do you want to keep playing, or do you need that time to recover? So certainly I think everybody would prefer the week off, and then it leads right into a bowl game where you've got some time in December to really recover and self-scout, kind of focus on exams, all that stuff as well, and make it like a normal bowl experience. There's a lot of positives, but I also think there's a lot of positives. It's not like you're going to play in that if we were playing in Atlanta next week, it's not like we would play Clemson this week, then Atlanta next week, and then have to immediately play the following week. There's 2 weeks between the conference championship games. So to me, I kind of like obviously I'm not an idiot. You'd love to have a bye and not have to play, but I don't think it's a detriment if you don't get that bye. The thing that I don't like, Pete, is just I wish there was a way where, bowl games are awesome. And I want every college player to get the experience of a bowl game. So I don't like the fact that if you're playing in the first round of the playoff, that's awesome and a great accomplishment. But let's say you play on Saturday, the first round. You're going to leave on Friday, travel wherever you are. They play the game. If you lose, your season's over, and that's it. And you don't go to a bowl game. And I wish there was a way to, not like a consolation prize. And I know if you lost in the first round of the playoff, nobody's going to want to get their team rallied back to go to the, whatever bowl. But, that's a part of it. But that's a good trade-off, too, that you get to go in the playoff. But you do lose the bowl experience for the 4 teams that lose in the first round. So my advice would be, if you get in, don't lose in the first round. Then you get to go to a bowl. So pretty simple. Control what you can control. Win.
You talked a little bit about Cade Klubnik earlier. Do you see any similarities between him and Lenoris, just in how they've progressed and what kind of players they are? And then also just on the injury front, Simon, Brown, Smith, any updates there?
Yeah, as far as Cade, I think, you see some similarities. Just the way that probably the biggest thing that jumps out, Alan, is their ability to get themselves out of trouble in the pocket. He's Lenoris, obviously, it's been well written and talked about some of the sacks that he's gotten out of. You can say the same thing about Cade as well. There's a lot of plays where he's sacked and he comes out of there, and it's not just coming out of there, it's coming out of there and throwing a 50-yard touchdown pass. He had one against Virginia Tech, where they had him on the ground. He comes out of it, throws a touchdown pass down Virginia Tech's right sideline. There's one against Virginia where he gets out of it, rolls out, and throws a deep ball down the left side to Virginia's sideline. There's one against Pitt where he gets out of there and runs for positive yardage. So his ability to get himself out of trouble is really, really impressive. And then I think just the way that he's grown as a passer as well. You see that development just like Lenoris, and think a lot of him. I got to know him in high school when I was coaching at Oklahoma, and Austin, Texas was my recruiting area. And so, recruited him, and we had him up to a couple games in Norman from down there in Austin, and think a lot of him as a person and enjoy, watching him play. As far as injuries, we'll see. Dabo said some of his guys are day-to-day, some of our guys are day-to-day. So I know he said one's hour-to-hour. We probably got one that's hour-to-hour too.
Speaking of Dabo, I think he said earlier today, he hears a lot about the Clemson-Carolina rivalry, especially if they lose and
Carolina-Clemson.
Carolina-Clemson.
All right, come on, Jack.
Thank you for correcting me on that.
Dabo said Clemson-Carolina.
Yeah, but anyway, paraphrasing, right? But he talks about it like, he'll go to a grocery store, and he doesn't hear much about, if you lose to Pitt or some random team or whatever. But when you lose to Carolina, it's a different story. As for you, whenever it's like Carolina-Clemson, how often do you hear about the rivalry, win or lose, in the days leading up to it?
I think you hear about it, year round. Just you're in, and that's what I told our players this morning, Jack. It's awesome being in this state because we don't have any of the, major pro sports. So it's other schools in the state, but it's primarily, one of two, Carolina or Clemson. And that's what I love. I love that aspect of it as well. So you can't help but hear about it because it is a small state, and they're right up the road, and you're surrounded by wherever you go, Tigers, Gamecocks, wherever. And I think that's great. And got a lot of respect for their fan base. I have close friends that are Clemson fans, and I have close friends that are, Gamecock fans. So you certainly hear about it. Whenever I go in the local, there's a CVS right near where I live, CVS Pharmacy, and whenever I pop in the CVS Pharmacy, the awesome lady that works in there, Miss Kathy, she's a Clemson fan, and every time I go in there, I get the rundown for 10 straight minutes about Dabo and the Clemson Tigers. So we actually FaceTimed Dabo last Thanksgiving. I went in there on Thanksgiving Day, and we were going to get Miss Kathy on the phone, and he didn't answer, but I was going to let her, tell him. You tell me all about Clemson, tell Dabo also. But now you can't help but hear about it, just being in the state of South Carolina. But it's that's part of it, and it's what makes rivalries great and whatnot as well.
Shane, when you look at Antonio Williams, how much has he improved? And you look at him this year, the way they're using him, even as a passer. Mm-hmm.
He's improved a lot. I saw him throw a pass as well in a game earlier this year. They're using him in a lot of different ways. They're getting the ball to him, Rick, on jet sweeps. He's in the slot. He's outside as well. So he's really developed as a receiver. Knew the skill set, obviously, coming out of high school. That's why we recruited him like we did. Great skill set and ability in space to make people miss, and then a really dangerous punt returner as well. So he looks stronger and even more polished than what he was as a receiver, and certainly somebody that has our attention and we need to be very, very aware of.
Kyle was in here earlier, and he talked about how much he loves playing in away games, and then Lenoris basically revealed that he didn't grow up watching South Carolina Clemson, and Demetrius has talked about his leadership. You have a lot of vocal leaders on this team. I guess, what are some of the advantages of having kind of different perspectives? Lenoris is not going to go in and change his mood about this weekend, but Kyle might, Demetrius might. Kind of, what are the advantages of having so many different angles and kind of attacks to this game, which you said will be very emotional? Yeah,
I think it starts with the fact that so many of those guys, they're experienced, they're a very mature team, and they're not going to be in awe of anything. And Kyle was a part of Georgia Tech, and D Knight was at Georgia Tech for a minute, and he was a part of that rivalry with Georgia. And Rocket Sanders has been a part of whether you say A&M is that rival game or Missouri at the end of the season, they've been a part of it. And Lenoris is a guy that not much rattles him as well. So I think it's just the maturity and the experience that those guys have, and continue to be who you are. And that's what we've talked about, Lulu, is don't change anything this week. Like, we're in this position because of who we are, what we've done throughout the season. So let's not all of a sudden get to Clemson week, because I think you got to be careful about making it, too big at times and talking all week about how much you want it and how much you don't like Clemson, and Clemson talking about how much they don't like Carolina and all that as well. I think sometimes when you're doing that, that's taking you away from what's really important. So continue to be who we are, don't change, and the most important thing is, like I said, go play well on Saturday, and the team that does that is going to be the one that feels pretty good after the game.
In this new era of college football, you guys have 20-something new transfers, a bunch of freshmen, guys who weren't around the rivalry at all. Like, do they care about the rivalry, or is it just another game? And in some ways, like, would you like them to just think about it as another game, or do you want them to get up and, be emotional about it?
I think there's a fine line. I think they certainly care about the rivalry. I don't think you can be here long without hearing about Clemson. And that's what I think is cool about this rivalry is it's in all sports. I mean, y'all have heard me say it before, probably getting ready to play Clemson. At other places that I've been, they're only really worried about the football game each year and maybe basketball. But here it's like a real big deal when you play them in any sport. And so I don't think it takes long for any new arrival to get here and figure out, the Clemson game at the end of the season is really important to the fan base here at South Carolina and in this state as well. And even if you did just get here, Lenoris may not have grown up watching this game, but this is one that's always on Thanksgiving weekend, that people are always, one of the rivalry games that people are always tuned into, in my opinion, as well. I want everybody to, play with emotion, play with an edge in any game. But, I think certainly rivalry games, you may not quite realize what it is, but once you get there and experience it and ride in on the bus and walk out there and get out there for pregame warm-ups, there's just a little bit of a different feel as well. So, but again, get back to just prepare yourself during the week to go play well on Saturday, and then once the game starts, a lot of that goes out the window, and it just gets down to playing football and who can play more winning football than the other team.
You alluded to the improvement of Clemson's offense from the beginning of the year back in that game against Georgia in August, and a lot of that has to do with the run game and Phil Maffa, and I think they almost run for like 200 yards a game. But what's going to be something that's going to be imperative for you guys to be able to slow it down and make sure they don't dictate kind of the terms and conditions of the game on the ground?
Yeah. You've got to be able to tackle well, which is easier said than done. You've got a big back in Maffa that can make you miss, but he can also run you over. So you've got to tackle well. You've got to be able to, when you get an opportunity, when we're in the backfield and we get around the quarterback, we got to be able to get him on the ground as well. And I think a huge thing for us will just be takeaways. Clemson's third in the nation in turnover margin right now, third. And I know last year, I've obviously followed them closely being in the state. They weren't very good last year. They turned the ball over way too many times last season, and Dabo has said that. They're not doing that this year. That's not a knock on wood. That's like a reverse knock wood. Like, you want them to turn it over, right? So you don't want to. You want them to turn it over, but they're not. I mean, I think they've only turned the ball over something like 7 times the entire season, which is crazy. I mean, that's less than 1 a game. So for us, we've got to be able to create takeaways and knock the ball out, force interceptions, errant throws, whatever it might be, and then that gets them off schedule. But if you're not doing a good job tackling and you're not creating takeaways, it's going to be tough. And it's not just Moffitt. It's the receivers are loads, and they're hard to bring down. And they're different skill sets. Whether they make you miss, outrun you, they can do it all.
With it being a holiday week, what do the next couple of days look like, specifically Thursday around here?
Yeah, so regular week for us, we've tried to just keep routine. I'm a routine guy. It drives my wife crazy that I just try and always keep this game schedule, and I'm a routine person and don't like change. So it'll be the same schedule for us as far as football goes today. And then tomorrow we'll keep our normal routine. There's a big game Saturday, but there's a really big game tomorrow night here. That's our annual manager versus trainer football game, the Turkey Bowl. That's tomorrow night at 6:30. The training staff won a huge battle last year, so they've had the bragging rights / trophy now for a year. So it's up to the equipment staff to try and bring it back. So that'll be tomorrow night at 6:30 in the indoor facility, and that's always fun and spirited. So that'll be different. And then Thursday morning, we'll keep our same schedule. On Thursday, we practice in the mornings, as you guys know anyway. So we'll start out Thanksgiving morning at 8 a.m. with a special teams meeting, and we'll finish up practice around 11:30 on Thursday morning. And then just like a regular in-season week, they're free after that until Friday. And obviously during the season, they go to class, but they're free. And it'll be the same thing. So they live close by and they want to get home with their families and go spend Thanksgiving. They can. A lot of guys obviously are staying here and either going to a teammate's house that maybe lives close, or they're going to their position coach's house, which I know a lot of our guys are doing. And that'll be the rest of the day, Thursday and Thursday night. And then we're back in here Friday morning and start our normal Friday away game routine.
Without giving away too much of your offensive game plan, when like the Citadel rushes for 288 yards using the option game, is that something that you think, hey, I might throw in a couple of these plays just because of what their success they had for them last week?
Yeah, when you look at the stat sheet and you see Citadel went for that, certainly, it opens your eyes as well, and they did a nice job as well. And, parts of our offense, you guys have watched us all season. We may not be under center and look like the old wishbone, but we're doing a lot of triple option elements in our offense where here comes a receiver around and then Lenoris can either hand it to Rocket or pull it. And then if he pulls it, he can pitch it to a receiver. I mean, that's triple option, and that's what, we've been doing. So that's our offense to begin with. But, certainly you look at every game they've played this season in all three phases and break it down and find things that fit you. There's no question about it. But the Citadel came in and did a good job and running the ball. And there's elements of that we'll certainly look at. But we'll also look at elements of what, Pitt did and Virginia did and Georgia did and App State and everyone else at Wake and on and on and on that they've played this season. I don't know. We've never really discussed that. I'm sure they would love the crowd, I'm sure. So I don't know. We'll have to make that announcement on social media without a doubt. So thank you guys. Happy Thanksgiving.